his mind, he still thought there was a chance. He was being nice because he's like, oh, if I do what you said,
we'll just
like,
get back
she just
together.
gonna, like, we gonna get back together. And in my head, I was like really clear that that was not an option. I remember reading an article where they were like, women are too picky and they just need to have 3 things and let God fill in the rest. And then my spirit was like, they were not talking to you, ma'am. Your spirit said, write it all. The list was like 29 things.
Young living every day, giving it to you and cutting straight. Now listen, that is your first time watching my video and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel. I appreciate that, y'all. Now moving forward, man, today is about a woman that was willing to leave her husband to fulfill all of what she wanted. Let's find out what she had to say about all this, y'all. Let's dive into it.
I didn't have the best perception of self. I knew I was smart and I just leaned into achievement, but I was grateful, right? And that's not to take away from him, but it's also to acknowledge that at 22, 23 years old, I was like, oh, wow, someone loves me. And we were best friends. And so that evolved. But almost 20 years later, I'm a different woman. I have done
You know you the
years
shit now, baby.
personal development.
Yes.
Well, you know, but it's not even the achievements anymore. It's the personal development. It's the therapy. It's the healing childhood trauma. It's the learning to forgive people who will never say I'm sorry. It's the being able to look at myself and be like, God made no mistakes in creating me. Like, I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. It's looking at what I do every day and seeing that, like, your life has purpose. You were born with purpose, on purpose, for purpose. Like, you are called to impact other people. And then when I see my clients and I see what, like, I can create, even in all my flaws and imperfections, there is great things to be done. You start to love yourself on a different level. Like, you know what? I actually am really awesome, but also I'm allowed to evolve.
You are incredibly selfish.
Now listen, y'all, you have guys, you have to be able to, translate this woman needs. They speak very indirectly. Translation: I done got therapy. I'm doing great now. I'm feeling better. I love myself. No problem. I think women should love themselves, right? If you went through a lot of trauma, you should get therapy, right? But at what cost did this happen? Now I got my own thing going on. I no longer need you no more. You got to translate the woman needs. I evolve. Translation: I became better. I don't need you anymore. And sometimes when they evolve and become better and they don't need you, that can have a firm effect on how they may treat you in these, whether it's marriage or relationship. But let's continue, y'all.
And to think that you should entertain and tolerate and be okay with things that you were okay with 18 years ago is crazy. That's wild, right? And I just got to this point, especially when I turned 40 in 2021. My life coach had me do an exercise. She said, do the willing to lose list. I'm like, what is the willing to lose? She said, it's not that you want to lose it, but you're willing to lose people, places, things. Like,
so y'all, I'm gonna continue before I say something. That's already a bad start. A life coach is telling you you'll be willing to lose people, places, or things. At what cost, though? Let's continue.
Whatever, in order to be all that you believe God has called you to be. And I had to be radically honest. See, a lot of times
you
we
put
don't
your
want to
husband
get
on
honest.
that list?
I didn't at first because I didn't want to see it.
Oh!
So I didn't. But when she first explained the exercise,
You knew it.
it kind of dropped in my spirit, but I didn't want, of course, nobody gets married wanting to get divorced. Nobody gets married thinking that. I was envisioning picking up grandkids with this man one day, like doing all the things. We going to the tape. We dying like Notebook, like together, holding hands. I had never envisioned it. But I had to be radically honest and ask myself a lot of questions about, are you really fulfilled? And do you actually feel like you're being loved the way that you now love yourself? And the answer was no. And he had learned to love me in brokenness, but didn't understand who I was as a more whole and complete woman. The type of love you gave me 10 years ago is not going to sustain who I am today.
Bitches, you crazy.
Now listen, y'all. First off, had a life coach that told you to sacrifice people, things. people, meaning your husband that you've been with for years, in a market now where it's so hard to get a man to marry you, that love you, that wants to be with you, have a family with you, you were willing to give up all these years of marriage to go out and pursue these new things that you think are supposed to be a part of your purpose. Your life coach told you to risk losing your husband to go out and pursue these dreams of things that you feel like you're supposed to get. And then she says, he don't love me the way I love myself. First off, men and women don't show love the same way. How can a man provide, protect, love you and his family and love you the same way that you love yourself? And what she say? This is the kind of love that he gave me then. It's not going to be enough now. Translation, I got my own thing going on now. Whatever you was giving me back then ain't gonna be enough. I done leveled up. I'm making my own money. I'm moving and shaking. You gonna have to do more. But let's continue.
And I had to be honest about that. And I was honest. And if someone doesn't have the capacity to love you how you want to be loved, I think for me, I had to choose to love myself more than anyone and anything. And in loving myself to that extent, I couldn't settle for love that didn't serve me.
You are incredibly selfish.
Love yourself more than anyone or anything. So let me get this straight. You got children. So you're supposed to love yourself better than kids because you're married with a family. Last time I checked, the kids come before what you want. Man, listen, fuck your feelings. The children come first. So you convince yourself that you're supposed to love yourself better than your children. Now, if a woman is willing to sacrifice loving herself better than her children as a husband, you have no shot. This is bad. That life coach gave some horrible advice, man. Listen, I hate to say it, but a lot of women give other women horrible advice. But let's continue.
What was the conversation with your daughter like? Because Minnie Maven is not Minnie
No, she's
anymore.
15 now.
Jesus, yes,
Yeah.
she is a whole little grown becoming a little grown woman, and you can't just make a decision like that, make a life change like that, the same way you could if she was 5.
Correct.
You know, so what were the conversations like? Because I think that's so important. Again, allowing her to learn through your lessons, but then also letting her keep that safe space with her daddy. So
of
what were
course.
those conversations like?
It's so funny because he and I just talked about this on this past Sunday. We were talking about how blessed we are to have a daughter that can hold space for both of us. No matter what, she can love her mom and she can love her dad and respect us both. We don't talk ill of each other. Definitely not around her, but we're honest.
Definitely not around.
Definitely not around her,
Yeah.
you know, but we're honest about what we each need. And she gets to respect that it's okay. Like, it's okay for people to know what they need and accept that they're not getting it from their partner. Like, has nothing to do with her and our love for her. But I remember her telling me early on when we first separated, she's like, I think you and dad are going to be great co-parents. And I was like, you think so? And she was like, yeah, like, you guys are going to be great co-parents. Like, she, like, the whole time, I think because we approached it from, we're going to do this with dignity, she's just seen it as a process and not a problem. It's just kind of like, okay, this is what's happening. It's not to say she hasn't had her moments, right? And she has a small group at church that has supported her a lot and all those things. But she's been very accepting and very, like, she told me one day, Mom, like, I love seeing you so happy.
She
and
can
like
see
so in love. And I did not think I was unhappy. If you would have asked me a few years ago, I would have never said, oh, I'm unhappy in my marriage. That wasn't it.
Really, nigga?
Now, listen, like I said before, I think it's okay. I think it's good for a woman to be happy and smiling and glowing, have self-love. I agree with that, but not at the cost of losing your family and letting your daughter, showing your daughter to prioritize herself first. So pretty much you're teaching your daughter to be selfish, prioritize what she wants over the family. That's not a good message for a kid, man. Let's continue.
But when I start to think about where my life could go and what it could be if I was loved the way I wanted to be loved, I had to be honest. And so it wasn't that it was terrible, he was an awful guy, and we were just fighting it. We weren't doing any of those things. It was, but there was an awakening for me, and I had to be honest about it.
Was he shocked since it wasn't like it was always a problem? Or did he kind of see it coming?
He would say that he was shocked, but I don't think he really was. I don't think anyone wants to say I knew it was coming. We had conversations, and I'm very open, and I'm very clear. I'm a clear communicator, right? So it's not that I hadn't voiced certain things. I literally just don't believe he had the capacity. That's different than desire.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that he had the desire and not necessarily the capacity in the time frame that I was working with.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to just say, there's no prize in saying, I was married for 40 years, but 25 of them I was unhappy. For
Facts.
what?
Facts.
And that's what many of our mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers did. We don't live in that time anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Get the fuck out of here!
He didn't do things exactly when she wanted him to do them. And the way you want to be loved and how you feel. As men, this is why, guys, listen, this is exactly why you got to put your purpose first, because women's feelings are fickle and they change like the weather. How she feel in the moment, what she wanted, and he couldn't do it for her the way she wanted it to be done. Instead of understanding the male experience and how men view the world. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not going to work, man. Let's rewind it a little bit because there's something else I wanted to say.
Was he shocked since it wasn't, it was always a problem? Or did he kind of see it coming?
He would say that he was shocked, but I don't think he really was. I don't think anyone wants to say I knew it was coming. We had conversations, and I'm very open, and I'm very clear. I'm a clear communicator, right? So it's not that I hadn't voiced certain things. I literally just don't believe he had the capacity. There's no prize in saying, I was married for 40 years, but 25 of them I was unhappy. For
Facts.
what?
Facts.
And that's what many of our mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers did. We don't live in that time anymore, right?
So, so that's another thing I wanted to allude on. When she said that he said he was shocked, and she I don't believe he was telling the truth. The man is telling you the truth, but you're so fixated on what you want to spin his narrative around based upon how you feel. And then she also said that, back in the days, our parents our grandparents stayed married for a long time, but this is a different time. Because her grandparents understood what it meant. It was about family being married, but they want somebody to keep them happy 24/7. You're not going to be in a marriage and be married for multiple years and all your feelings and desires and beliefs is going to be fulfilled every year, every day. It's not going to happen. This is delusion that we live in the West, man, and it's poison. Let's continue.
So I have a right to be happy, and I want to be happy and fully express all of who I am all of the time. And so we had conversations. He still has said that he felt blindsided. And of course that's to be expected, right? And a part of a big lesson that I've learned is I owe him the dignity of his own process. When we first separated, because I wanted it to be so, amicable, I was like, we're going to talk every week and we're going to flush out everything. We're not going to waste all our money on all these attorneys. People were like, it's going to take you 3 years with all the stuff you got. I was like, I do not receive that. We're going to do this with grace. We're going to do this amicably. And he went along with it, but I realized after several months that in his mind, he still thought there was a chance. He was being nice because he's like, if I do what she says,
we'll just get back together.
We're going to get back together. And in my head, I was really clear that was not an option. And, we had some difficult conversations, and I had to just apologize just recently. I'm like, I was not trying to intentionally control anything, but I realized by carrying on that way and just hey, we're going to talk every week and we're going to do this and it's going to look like that I was being controlling, not from a fear-based place, but it was control nonetheless. And it wasn't fair because he needed to grieve. And a part of his grief may have included not seeing her talking
a
to
true
me.
cut.
A true right?
You are incredibly selfish.
One of the things she said, you got to translate, I wanted to express all of me. Translation, I want to go out and do what I want to do when I want to do it. I'm making my own money. I got a whole lot of other options of men out here. I think I'm worthy and I think I can get more. So she said in her head, she was clear that they wasn't getting back together. You can't be clearing your head about not getting back together with somebody. You have to have a verbal conversation with them in person and make yourself clear. And then on top of that said, I was being controlling as far as how we gonna communicate. So let me get this straight. You want to divorce him and then you think you get to dictate the terms on how the conversation gonna go? Get the fuck out of here, man. Don't you ever let no woman dictate the terms on how the conversation gonna go. Yeah, right. But there was another clip, y'all. We're gonna dive into that one too.
So you dating? Can I ask you that?
Yeah. With
I knew
intention.
she was dating. Because you was like, yeah, it's not the end of the road, baby. I felt that.
Yeah.
I felt that in my
talked
spirit.
about it on the podcast that I was going to date with intention. So earlier this year, I'm on a flight. I had a brand gig in New York and I was flying to speak in San Antonio. And I'm on the flight and I literally have this like, again, that like still small voice that's like nudging. It's like, you're not even clear on what you want. Mm-hmm. Do you even really know what you want? And, you can list a few things like honest, kind, right? And so I take my phone out, open up the notes, and my spirit is like, write everything that you want and don't hold back. And I get down to like 7 things. And I'm like, I remember reading an article where they were like, women are too picky and they just need to have 3 things and let God fill in the rest. And then my spirit was like, they were not talking to you, ma'am. Your spirit said, write it all. The list was like 29 things. 29 things.
What?
29 things. Her spirit told her that it should be more than 7. 29 things. What man is going to be protecting, providing, keeping you happy, keeping you aroused, and be able to fulfill 29 things on this list that you say your spirit told you that you should have? Listen, the delusion is so high. She believes it's her spirit telling her to do this. This ain't your spirit telling you to do this. This is you telling you to do this. Absolute delusion, man. Telling you, y'all, get your passport. Let's continue.
And every day, like not every day, but I would say a couple times a week, I just kind of review it because I started to have an awareness. This is the thing. I was heads down, faithful, like all the thing for 14 and a half years, right? So I didn't even know when men were flirting with me because I used to just always be like, oh, thank you. They'd be like, oh, you're beautiful. Thank you so much. I never really looked around, paid attention, none of that. So having the list allowed me to start having more awareness around men, right? And then I could meet people and all of a sudden, like I would notice like, oh, someone's flirting with me and I would talk to them and then I go, oh,
that ain't it, no.
Yo, not you. Like I remember one thing on the list code was like, I want someone that's humorous, right? And I met a guy, he seemed really cool. I'm talking to him and then I realized he has mean-spirited humor. So his humor is at the expense of other people. I don't really like that. As someone who was bullied, as a kid and all that, when it was teasing, but it was nasty. I'm like, I really don't like mean-spirited humor. So I had to like update the list. I was like, humor
Let me get
not
specific.
mean-spirited.
Yeah, let me get specific.
So that was a really good exercise for me in this season. Just like, okay, what do you want? I will say this. I learned that there's not a shortage of men.
Tell them. Look in that camera right there and say that one more time.
I have really learned that there's not a shortage of men.
Bitches, you crazy.
Translation. I had this list with all these things on there, and now I'm starting to see that there were some of these men out here that had certain characteristics that I put on the list. Now I'm starting to see what I was getting wasn't enough. This is hypergamy at its finest. Now you're wanting for more because you didn't drew this list up and you believe that you can get everything on this list. And now you're starting to meet other guys, seeing other options of other men out there that's pursuing you. But you don't understand that most of these guys just want to splash on you like swim time. You're looking at this list. Oh, I got more things. Hypergamy at its finest, always wanting more. You open the floodgates and let them see too much. They start thinking they can get more, man. Hypergamy at its finest. That's all I can say. Let's continue.
Met a lot of great men. They were not necessarily great for me, but it was really a great exercise. I'm like, oh, nice people exist out here.
Yes.
Nice tall ones.
Check this out. Your hard-earned resources, energy, attention, and time. It's just an exercise for her to figure out what she wants in a man. Let me repeat myself. Your hard-earned resources, energy, attention, and time, it just help her on her journey to figure out what she wants in a man. Earning your money, the time to schedule these dates, it's just a great exercise to benefit her. Pay attention, man. Listen, a lot of these modern day women think this way. Your resources that's hard earned, it's just an exercise to benefit her on her journey. Wake up. Start respecting yourself and stop wasting your resources, energy, attention, and time on women that don't deserve it, who don't really like you like that, man. You have to be able to gauge the behavior. A lot of women think this way. She was just bold enough to say it. Oh, there's a whole bunch of men out here who want me. Oh my goodness, there's a whole bunch of guys. Let me keep on going and see what else I can find. These guys were great, but there's got to be something greater out there. Let me keep pursuing and see what else I can catch. They were great, man, but they can't check off the 29 things on this list that's impossible to check off. Even though it's impossible, I'm going to keep on going and see if I can find somebody else. Find somebody else who can. Delusion, man. Oh, it's a lot of tall men out there. Not really. Now, only 14.25% of all men are 6 feet tall. 14.25% of all men. So if she just an advocator for dating black men, that's going to be a smaller percentage. If you want him to be at least 6 feet tall, then you want him to be making a certain money. Then he got to be attractive. Then it's got to be like some charismatic experience there. He got to charm you, keep you smiling, and then you want him to check off 29 things on that list. It's not going to happen, man. It's impossible. That's all I got to say about this video. Before I get out of here, guys, listen, let's get the money on point. Let's get the mind on point. Let's get the body on point. Let's develop them social skills. Last but not least, get you a passport, travel to a destination you're liking. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you're definitely going to be dealing with women that live in a more fact-based reality. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell another friend. Listen, I'll see y'all in the next video. I'm out.
Yeah. Got the streets on fire, feel the heat, the Wayne way. Ain't never had no handouts, put in work, I'm self-made. Superhero strength, I got the power, Luke Cage. Flexing on them haters like Drake. This is real rap, no cap. Bust it down like packs. Hustle hard like I trap. I'm certified with no stamp.